It helps because it matters and it makes people feel better. And so if that isn't the general feeling in your greater metropolitan area and it doesn't permeate to some degree your everyday existence, then that probably isn't going to set the table for a positive dating environment. It's just not going to. If people are honking their horns in traffic all day, like in Los Angeles, which, spoiler alert, is not on this list either this year, that really makes people tense, though, and feel like they're in a bad place where just about everything is, else is built to make you feel good. So I'm not saying that LA, that the traffic cancels out the beauty and the weather and some of the interesting things about Southern California, but it doesn't prevent it from being a good dating city either, despite all the beautiful people. So it's a little bit stressful to have 2 hours of your day in a car, and that's 2 hours less of a day that you're going to be doing things you enjoy. And that matters. And that matters in Los Angeles, and that matters in a lot of people. But Los Angeles is not on this list this year. You're on probation, Los Angeles. So let's get into it. Our 10th worst city to find love for 2022 is Phoenix, Arizona. Now, last year, Phoenix did not make this list. Why? Because I spent a lot of my time there. I have a business based in Scottsdale. So the community, I thought they have access to me, which I thought could not help but improve the love landscape. But I did not help and have not helped at all. Phoenix, Mesa, Scottsdale, Glendale, Gilbert, Chandler, especially Tempe, the whole Valley of the Sun has a fried brain when it comes to dating. It is simply too distracted, and not just in, look at all the beautiful people way like Malibu or Beverly Hills. And Phoenix is full of beautiful people. It really is. But it's filled with people spending way too much time doing way too many things that don't help them connect in any meaningful, positive way. It feels like one big hospitality tent. It's filled with booze and food and giveaways, and you indulge and you wake up and you're like, what happened here? Phoenix dating is empty calories. That was fun last night. What were those guys' names again? It's girls going around on a trolley going, woo, at a bachelorette party. That's Phoenix. And that's not, that's in a lot of parts of Phoenix. It's warm there, but it doesn't feel sexier the way, say, Miami does. And we'll get to Miami in a second. Spoiler alert number 2. Phoenix dating feels sluttier. Feels dirtier, feels more desperate. You don't look around and see too many people in relationships out to dinner. You don't see a lot of happy couples. You see a lot of first dates of people trying to sell each other on something. And I brought up Scottsdale, which is, the fun party portion of Phoenix. Phoenix is very sprawled. Downtown isn't necessarily that lively, but so a lot of the action goes down in Scottsdale, which is a beautiful, vibrant place. It's also ground zero for the cougar community. A lot of women take offense to that, but there's a lot of women there trying to get into the wrong situation with a guy who definitely won't be them for the long haul, while spending her ex-husband's money and talking about how she wants to open a wellness spa in Sedona that never actually happens. There's way too many realtors in the Phoenix area who don't actually sell houses or even try to. They just get their license and talk it over mimosas and maybe put their face on a bus bench, and they use that really as a dating profile. They serve their guacamole up with a side of desperation. It's the entire social scene, and it is a huge social scene in the Phoenix area. It feels like a game of musical chairs with too few seats, and the seats that are available feel like they only have 3 steady legs. So it's a really shaky situation. People are borderline happy there because it is very nice and it is very fun, but they are very lonely for most of that existence. So it keeps them out of the very top of this list, but it definitely puts them on the list. Phoenix, Arizona, you're the 10th worst city to find love for 2022. Our 9th worst city is St. Louis, Missouri. And trust me saying St. Louis, Missouri is probably the only time you've even considered St. Louis, Missouri, which says a lot about St. Louis, Missouri. Or is it Missouri? Missouri. And trust me, the only thing that keeps St. Louis from being higher on this list is just not relevant enough. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody cares about it, including the people in St. Louis. St. Louis feels like a pile of losing scratch-off tickets and an empty cigarette carton. And people there cling to this hope of, this is a great place to raise a family, and I was, happy here as a kid. Well, you're never going to start a family or have your own kids if you try to date there. It's a city, it's just going the wrong way. And it's long ago surpassed by bigger and better places in the heartland. Say what you want about Kansas City, which is sort of a rival to St. Louis. Kansas City at least has some personality. It's not a good one, but it does have one. And they have a football team. St. Louis doesn't even have that anymore. And the sense of civic pride that comes along with having one or then losing one, it really does devastate a city. You get jilted by the NFL, it makes the whole community feel second rate and abandoned. And that's St. Louis. Its major business is a beer company that is no one's first choice to actually drink. That's St. Louis. Dating there is settling. She'll probably make a good mom. He's a good guy. He's got a good job. It's not romantic. It's not exciting. It's a roadmap to a marriage that you never really wanted to be in the first place. St. Louisans, move away. Find a guy, meet a girl, and then if you really want to, move back if you're so insistent on being there because your parents will provide you a bunch of free babysitting. And you can say that about a lot of places. I'm there because my family is there is the single laziest and most nonsensical dating excuse there is. Trust me, if you lived in Maui, you would see your family all the time. And they would be far more excited to see you. So think about that. Number 8 on the list, New York City, which I mentioned earlier, my hometown. We just did a live show in New York City that was really fun. So let me get that out of the way. And let me get into a couple of the good things about dating in New York. So I'm going to qualify New York by giving you a handful of good things. And those good things are why it's actually lower on the list this year than just about any other time we have done this. And New York City is always on the list. As I've said before, Lady Liberty stands there with that resting bitch face looking over the whole metropolis, and that really sets a bad tone. The good thing about New York, there are, for sure, very, very interesting people in New York. Big personalities, dynamic personalities, that helps. And they're there from all over the world. And there are new people arriving every day to New York still. You hear about all the people moving out of New York? A lot of people are still moving to New York. People who grew up in other places and dreamed of the New York that they saw in the movies, or the life that Carrie and Samantha and Charlotte and Miranda, is that right? Meanwhile, back at Miranda's, the life they saw on Sex and the City, they grow up in Fullerton, California, and they're like, I want to go to the city for that. That looks fun. They wanted that. And there's people out there that still want that. And they come looking for that. And that's a good thing because they come into the city hopeful. And the other thing about New York that is great when it comes to dating is that when a date goes well, it's filled with possibilities, and it has no end point. You can keep it going. You can get food at 2 a.m., you can shoot pool at 3 a.m., you can take a walk at 4 a.m., so when it's going good, it can go good a really long time. But here's why New York is on this list, despite those qualities and the sort of fading scent of romanticism in the air. It's just too hard there. Life is too hard there. It's just too angry there. It's just too broken there. The entire infrastructure of the city has sort of fallen apart at the same time, which happens to cities that are of a certain age and that run out of money at a certain time. And so there's too much of that in New York that gets in the way of possibilities. So even though the possibilities do exist in great numbers, the obstacles exist in greater ones in New York. Too many people there wondering, are they going to stick it out there? How long are they going to stay there? A lot of people really are like, there's far less like, I'm a lifer here in New York, which again, I was and I left. Than there used to be, because people do hear the stories. There's too many people Googling late at night, looking at Zillow and checking out, what's it like to live in the Carolinas? And that's tough. You don't want to date those people that have one foot out the door. There's a lot of those people. And New York just has too many subway delays and garbage piles. And the thing about the lockdown with all the to-go orders, a lot of rats because of it. Throw out those styrofoam containers, more rats. You don't want to date in a place with rats. And random crazy crimes and all the things that people used to, think make things quote unquote interesting. Now they just sort of make life unlivable. And even things that should bode well for dating. Lots of great restaurants in New York. Well, you know what? There's lots of great restaurants all over America, not just the ones I like that Guy Fieri has on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. There is foodie scene in every city in America. And B, eating dinner in a restaurant in New York, even when you get to actually go back inside to do it, which is a whole other story, it's always been, though, that you and your date are sitting at a two-top and you have to be 2 inches from the party next to you because they cram in too many tables because they have to pay the rent and they have to get as many people in there as possible. And you're sitting there eating and somebody's banging into your chair trying to get to coat check, and it's a stressful and unpleasant and loud environment. And that New York attitude that all of us used to have, that cockiness and that winking bitchiness that had some appeal, it's gone. It's gone there. I was just there. I've been saying this for years. New York has turned surly and angry and sad. And almost everyone who moves out of New York says the same thing. I wish I left earlier. Because nobody ever moves out of New York and goes back, except for Jerry Seinfeld. And trust me, he is dealing with none of that New York that you are. He's not. Very, very rarely does anybody be like, you know what? I moved here and I'm going to go back to New York now. It just doesn't happen. And that says everything. Our friend James Altucher, he's been on this show and he's been on our stage many, many times. He wrote a piece last year that went very viral entitled New York City is Dead Forever. And his point was that the advantage of New York and the things about New York that were uniquely New York, most of them can be found almost everywhere now. Minneapolis has people of different cultures from all over the world. You can get a really good omelet at 3 a.m. at a lot of places. But the hardships of New York are uniquely New York. And so companies filled with the kinds of people that you want to date, those young professionals, those hopeful singles, those companies aren't putting their headquarters and their major offices in Manhattan anymore. They're not. They're more likely to end up in Greenville, South Carolina. As should you, New York City. So you are the 8th worst city for 2022. Number 7, Miami. And you can throw in Palm Beach and Palm Beach County and Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, the whole Miami-Dade County. You could put the whole South Florida into the same pool of sunscreen and glitter and margaritas and hair gel. Just dump it in the pool. And I am recording this show as we speak in the heart of South Florida. My earlier little prologue to this episode about jealousy, that is the defining definition of the culture here, especially the dating culture. Who are you? What are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you with? Why are you with her? How can I get him? On and on and on. And now again, this is not one of the places that people are generally unhappy. It's too beautiful and too warm. And as I said a couple weeks ago, Florida always feels like a vacation. But vacation's a hard time to date because it's never quite serious enough. And vacation romances rarely last long. And that's the main issue here. It's just not serious enough. There's always another guy or another girl or something else or somewhere else, and none of it feels quite right because none of it is quite right. It's off. It's cockeyed dating. It's old guys with young girls and old women with young guys. It's like a Rubik's Cube that is never going to quite click into the place it's supposed to click into so it all makes sense. Oh, do you have a boat? How big is your boat? Where do you dock your boat? Can I go on your boat? Awesome. Wait, why is she on your boat? All of it. All of it. It's overinflated lips and boobs and sense of self-worth and egos and attitudes. It's too much of the things that don't matter and too little of the things that do, especially when it comes to dating. And bad fashion sense. Meow. It's only good to look like Pitbull and dress like Pitbull and call yourself Pitbull if you are, in fact, Pitbull. Okay? You hear me, Jersey Guidos and muchachos that have moved down here? You're not Pitbull. Stop with that. That's the dating scene, and that's why South Florida is number 7 on the list of the worst cities to find love for 2022. Number 6, a former 2-time winner, loser on this